The story begins with a boy standing in front of a sword, surrounded by a crowd. He peacefully arrived at his coming-of-age ceremony. While celebrated by both his family and fiancée, it was supposed to be the day where he would take his first step towards a bright future, and yet he was robbed of everything. 1 month ago, Radoril was practicing his sword when his fiancée asked him what kind of adult he wants to be in the future. Radoril is the second prince of the kingdom of Zane. He asked her why she suddenly chose to ask such a question. Martina, daughter of the Prime Minister, answers that she just asked that question because he's going to become an adult next month. Radoril then answered that in the future, he would like to do something for his kingdom and support his brother. Martina chuckled, saying that she was thinking he would say something like, "I want to be an adventurer." Radoril has already decided to become a knight that protects this kingdom from its enemies. Hearing that, Martina moved her hand, asking him if he would protect her as well. Radoril grabbed her hand gently, calling her Tina, saying that he will surely protect her and the kingdom. At that moment, Granid, first prince of the kingdom of Zane, arrived there. Granid looked at the scene and mentioned that he was worried that his little brother might be anxious about the upcoming succession ceremony. Radoril thought that the holy sword Dainsleif, the sword that has been passed down since the time of the first king. There's a saying that whoever pulls the sword out will become the new king, but for hundreds of years, no one has been able to pull out the holy sword. Now, all that it stands for is for the coming-of-age ceremony that is grasped by royals to confirm their resolution. Radoril was really excited to be recognized as a man of his own after turning 13. Granid smiled looking at him, saying that he's glad Radoril isn't worried or something like that. In the present, Radoril was standing in shock because he just took out the sword that's not been moved for 100 years. Everyone watching the ceremony was stunned, wondering what's the meaning of this. Suddenly, Granid grabbed him, asking how he pulled out the holy sword. Radoril answered that he doesn't know, it just happened. Granid was really angry, saying why he wasn't the chosen one. He's been supporting this kingdom all his life, he should be the one becoming the king. He refused to believe this and suddenly snatched the sword from Radoril's hand. But as he did that, he felt severe pain in his hand, forcing him to let go of the sword. People started gossiping about who will become the king now. Granid turned angry because of that and was about to shout when the Prime Minister arrived there and asked him to calm down. He said that they will deal with this situation later. Then, Granid forbade everyone to talk about what happened here. When everyone left, Granid angrily pushed away Radoril, asking to be gone from his presence at once. In the next scene, Radoril was shouting, asking about the meaning of this. He was in handcuffs and was being told to be patient. He's only being appointed to his own territory. Radoril heard that and still didn't calm down because he's being treated as a criminal. The Prime Minister and the General were the ones doing this. They told Radoril that he'll be able to return to the kingdom after his elder brother ascends the throne. Radoril understood that, but the problem is the handcuffs. He asked them why he's in shackles. They could have just escorted him out respectfully. The General explained that with the blessing of the Holy Sword, Radoril's physical abilities have now increased and the miasma-infused magical power is now consuming his surroundings. Since he cannot control the power yet, there's nothing else they can do but to use a demon seal. Also, there's a chance Radoril might bare his fangs against the kingdom. Radoril was really angry, shouting that there's no way in hell he would attack his own brother just to become king. He asked them to call his brother, he would talk to him himself. At that moment, the Prime Minister sighed and revealed that they did all this because Granid asked them to. Beside the Prime Minister, his daughter was standing as well. When Radoril tried to talk to her, she just laughed, telling to have a safe trip. Radoril called her by her nickname, Tina, because she's his fiancée. Suddenly, she said to Radoril that the only one who can call her Tina is her betrothed, which Radoril isn't anymore. She says that everything changed when he pulled out the holy sword. For the stability of the kingdom, feelings are not necessary. That is just how she was brought up. If Radoril stayed in the royal capital, the kingdom would be in turmoil and the people would suffer. That is not what Radoril wanted, so she asked him to protect her and the kingdom and fulfill his promise by leaving the kingdom. In the end, she said that there's no point in getting engaged anymore. Hearing that, Radoril started sweating, thinking that Tina was important to him. Seeing his expressions, she walked closer to him, asking him if he's sick. When Radoril looked at her, she didn't look as graceful as she used to be. He didn't spare her another glance and ran to his carriage. With that, the carriage moved to leave the kingdom as quickly as possible. After a moment, when Radoril looked back toward the castle through the window, he saw his brother standing there. He smiled after seeing him, but his brother's expressions were that of disdain. Seeing that, Raid started crying loudly like a baby. 5 years later, a man was riding his horse while being chased by some wild dogs. The man suddenly stopped his horse and stepped down, taking out his sword. With just one slash, he killed one of the dogs and injured the leg of the second one. As the dogs were about to run, Raid smiled, saying that there's no way they'll get home safely now. Soon, a guy named Zafis, Pioneer Tower Adventurer, arrived there. Seeing so many dead dogs, Zafis couldn't believe that one person did it. Raid mentioned that this nothing special. Hearing that, Zafis said, "How a crybaby saying all this?" Raid was confused and asked him why he said that. Zafis reminded him that when the first time he came here, he was just a kid, crying alone. When Zafis saw the kid being sent to him, he didn't know what was going to happen. He came from the royal capital who gave no support to this town. He can consider himself lucky that he was just a kid at that time. But Raid wasn't the kid who would just give up and rot here. Zafis was surprised when he came to him to learn how to fight. Zafis thought that Raid was interesting and funny for a royal kid and was worth training for. And soon, the others started recognizing him as well. The town has grown, and now he's a respectable lord in name and in reality. Raid waved his hand, asking him to stop being gross. Suddenly, Raid said that the town would be fine without Zafis. If he wants to retire, he can. And when he does, Raid will take his place and protect this town because this is his home now. Right then, Zafis took out a letter and said that Raid has a visitor from the royal capital. Zafis asked him if he needed some time, but Raid decided to go immediately. Before leaving, he asked Zafis if he would accompany him like old times when he's done with his business. Zafis' gloomy face showed a smile again, asking to just go. After a while, Raid learned that the visitor was waiting for him in the reception room and he headed there immediately. The person who was sitting there was Martina. She looked at him and said that it's been a long time, Prince Raid. Hearing the word prince, he asked her when he became the prince. She revealed that some days ago, his father, the king, passed away. After that, Granted, the king sent a royal decree. Raid, the king's brother, will immediately resign from the position of lord of the pioneer town with immediate effect. He must return to the royal capital. Raid heard that and was about to mention how they kicked him out when Martina stopped him, saying that their kingdom is currently on the brink of a great crisis. The central continent's top country and the world's greatest power has declared war on the kingdom of Zane. Raid smiled, saying that declaration of war is always just a show of strength. The empire is powerful, but it also has many enemies who will not let them do as they please. Right then, Martina mentioned the Holy Sword. She said that the 13 holy swords that pass down from lore, the empire possesses 3 of them. All of them have a confirmed wielder, holy sword holder. It's extremely rare that there are 4 wielders of the holy sword in the same time period, including Raid. She assumes that he knows the threat as the wielder of the holy sword himself. That is why the royal decree asks him to return to the capital immediately. Raid smashed the table, saying that this is nothing but a mockery. He asks her if she really wants him to fight for her, risking his life for her, who drove him out of the royal capital. With a straight face, Martina answered yes. Raid suddenly took out his sword and put it against her throat. She quickly asked him to calm down, saying that this is for his own good. Hearing that, he asked her to explain why it's for his own good. She answered that the king said that he would grant any wish to Raid if he stood on the battlefield as the holder of the holy sword. He would gain new territories and also reclaim his royal status. Raid heard that and smiled, asking her to leave if this is the only thing she has to say. Martina asked him if he's disobeying the royal decree, no matter his status, he can't refuse. Before she could finish, Raid asked her to shut up. Suddenly, she twisted a button on her shirt, saying that she had no choice. As she did that, some chains appeared around Raid, binding him. Raid was still able to speak and asked her if this was her intentions all along. She answered that she didn't want to do this if she could, but she's the daughter of the prime minister and is obliged to give up everything for her kingdom if necessary. Raid asked her if she thinks he would just comply. She replied that if he will not, she will have no choice but to use slavery magic. Finally, Raid is being treated like a criminal. He asked how low she would go. Martina touched his face, saying that as a former vassal and as his former fiancé, she begs him to come quietly and obey. Raid shouted, saying that he was weak and stupid back then, innocently believing everything, but now he's different. He will never give in to all of them again. As he said that, he shouted, "Nymelia." The maid standing behind him heard that and attacked immediately, taking down the guards. Mertina tried to attack as well, but Nymelia stopped her attack easily. Seeing her magic and golden eyes, Mertina was shocked, realizing that Nymelia was buried 200 years ago. This maid is one of the 6 witches of doom. Mertina asked how she came here. Nymelia laughed, saying that only she can do whatever she wants with her master. She doesn't remember allowing a big-titted woman like Mertina to touch her master. Rhaedoral heard that and hit her head, asking her to stay shut. Then he turned to Mertina, asking her if she's still trying to restrain him even though he's a royalty. When she didn't say anything, he asked her if the man who ordered him to be taken into custody granted. She answered no, saying that it was her fault for being too hasty. Hearing that, Rhaedoral took out his sword and moved to cut her head, but he stopped the sword just beside her neck. She was still calm, asking him why he stopped. Rhaedoral thought that it would be easy to kill her after what happened here, but he has a question, so he's not going to kill her yet. Mertina heard that and said that it's useless, she will tell him nothing. As he heard that, he said to Nymelia that it's her turn now. Immediately, she appeared behind Mertina and hugged her, saying that the resolute expression on her face and her willingness to sacrifice is lovely, but that won't help. She can endure the pain, but what about pleasure? The feeling and price she cultivated up till now, Nymelia will take them down to mush. Mertina started feeling strange and blushed. Rhaedoral told her that he knows her well enough. She's not the kind of woman who would crack under questioning or torture. That's why Rhaedoral decided to use pleasure on her. When the guards woke up and asked what's going on, Rhaedoral announced that Mertina tried to harm him, the prince, and for that crime, she will be in custody under him. That day, Rhaedoral was devastated by betrayal, everything he believed in was taken from him and he was thrown out. And now, there's no way they will not rob him from his normal life he finally has. Then he has also decided to show no mercy. He's not the same person who he was back then. He asked the guards to go back and tell his brother that the war against the Arslanina Empire, Rhaedoral will finish it off by himself. After 3 days, many soldiers arrived outside the town. The one leading them was the commander of the royal army, Darren Gallust. He respectfully asked the door to be opened. Rhaedoral headed down himself and ordered the guards to open the door. Zafis mentioned that it is usually like this when welcoming royalty. He can't believe that the commander came himself. It seems they didn't even have the time to put up a front. At that moment, Mertina, who was also standing there, talked. She said to Rhaedoral that their country is cornered. She barely uttered these words because she's still under the pleasure spell. Rhaedoral heard that and looked at her, pulling her toward him from the chain she had around her neck. He grabbed her neck angrily, asking to stay shut. As he touched her, the intensity of the pleasure spell increased even more, making her feel intense pressure. As Rhaedoral pushed her away from himself, Darren entered the town with his army. Rhaedoral doesn't even trust the people under his own brother, and this Darren guy is the son of General Gallust. He will not show any mercy if Darren acted hostile toward him. Rhaedoral thought that and moved his hand for the handshake. But Darren didn't do that and bowed in front of him, calling him the prince. Seeing that, Rhaedoral told him to raise his head and asked him why he came here. Darren answered that he was entrusted with a message from his subordinates that Rhaedoral will participate in the upcoming war. That's why he has come here to personally pick up Rhaedoral. He asked Darren to not worry, keep your promises, for the subjects are always looking up to you. It is your duty as a royalty to respond to the subjects' loyalty. These are the teachings of Rhaedar's late father. He said that he will do everything in his power to protect the kingdom. Darren admired his determination and decided to prepare right away. At that moment, his eyes landed on Mertina, who was standing in the side, trembling nonstop. Rhaedoral looked at him, asking him if there's problem. Darren answered no, saying that considering that Mertina tried to harm him, the prince, the punishment given to her can be called merciful. Rhaedoral touched Mertina's shoulder, saying that he still has a use for this woman, so he will not treat her badly. With that, he said that he has already finished preparing so they should leave immediately. Darren asked him if Mertina would be coming too. Rhaedoral replied no, saying that she doesn't have any use even if they took her. Before leaving, he asked Zafis to take care of the town and Mertina in his absence. While they were in the carriage, Darren asked him if it was okay to not bring anyone else. Rhaedoral answered that it's okay, there's also the management of the city to think about. Nymelia, who was sitting beside Rhaedoral, then introduced herself. She said that she's in charge of taking care of her master and is looking forward to working with them. Then, Darren told the Royal Highness Rhaedoral that if he has any requests, he can tell him. Hearing that, Rhaedoral closed his eyes, asking him why he's treating him like a royalty now. Darren answered that it's obvious, he's the prince, so he should be treated like royalty. Suddenly, Radoral asked him if he would say the same if he were to fight his brother. Darren couldn't answer that. He asked him to not say such things even if it's a joke. Not everyone can ignore it. Radoral heard that and said that he just felt like grumbling a little, even though he was thrown away for being an unneeded prince. He's now being called back for their convenience. As Radoral said that he's just kidding, Darren told him that His Majesty granted genuinely wishes to reconcile with His Highness, Radoral. He wishes to stand hand in hand to fight against the Empire. So Darren asked him to consider his feelings. Hearing that, Radoral turned Nymelia. She understood what he wanted and summoned a bottle. Then she poured a tea or whatever it is in a glass and gave that to Radoral. She decided to produce some milk as well, but Radoral stopped her. Oh man, I wanted to see that. Darren was really shocked seeing the scene of how Nymelia used magic without chanting. She said that it's not that surprising. Darren understood why Radoral has only brought a maid with him. At first, he was wondering what kind of schemes he has planned, but if he's with that strong of a magician, it makes sense. Darren assumes that he's showing them his power and warning them, don't do anything stupid. Radoral told him that he's thinking too much, he just wanted some tea. He then turned to Nymelia, praising her for making such a delicious tea. She blushed and said that it was worth it to put in the special honey. With that, the time passed and soon Radoral arrived at the royal capital after 5 years.